What's up, guys? How are you? I'm back, and I'm going to do a new retro compare and contrast video. And pretty much the sense of this video is really pointless because it's old stuff, old hardware, old games. But I wanted to do it for two reasons. One, or about two or three reasons. One, because Alone in the Dark was one of those games that was underwhelmingly accepted because it came out at the very tail end of the PlayStation 1's life cycle and the beginning life cycle of Dreamcast. But both of those things lend each other hand in hand because it actually came out on Dreamcast first and then it was ported to the PS2. Reason being the PS1. Reason being the PS1 was the only dominant console and the only console in the market at that time. And this was Sega's answer to PlayStation to get back to their prime and their glory, which they pretty much did. And because of having that success and having that dominant force and impact with the Dreamcast when it came to the market, Sony quickly reacted after they had no word and no saying whatsoever about any future console coming out. They started to talk about immediately about week or 2 weeks after the release of Dreamcast that the PS2 was coming out, the successor to PS1. So everybody was like, "Ooh, wow, amazing!" Because it was going to be 20 times, million times more powerful than Dreamcast. It was going to have a DVD player, and so on and so forth. You know, the typical Sony smoke and mirrors that they still do till today in this era. So one of the reasons, like I said, is because the Alone in the Dark games were really never, well, this particular Alone in the Dark game, this was a reimagination, a revision, a remaster of the original old one that was on the Commodore 64 and the Amiga, and back in the day, in the 80s. And this was made into being more in the formula and style of Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, and Dino Crisis. So it was very under-received, but it was also a really awesome game that a lot of people probably didn't play. So this is kind of like a retro showcasing and compare and contrast. Now the reason why I'm doing the compare and contrast, secondly, is because the game was only available on PS1 and Dreamcast. So there's no other way for me to compare it. There might be a PC version, but obviously this is a console channel. I do not do PC of anything. So I figured, why not? I have access to both games. I thought it would be a little fun. And also at the same time, I can kind of show the hypocrisy of how so-called video game lovers at the time that stated they were video game fans that, oh, I'm going to wait for PS2 instead of playing and getting a Dreamcast. Remembering that the Dreamcast was not only the most powerful console ever created, it was the most powerful console ever created with a real motherboard inside and the hardware that was an arcade motherboard. It was the only console that was the most affordable, being the most powerful, which was $199.99, as we all know. And still, the fraudulent majority of PS1 fans, that's why I say a lot of them were just casual, and still to this day are casuals, were like, oh, I'm not getting a Dreamcast, I'm waiting for PS2, especially after they announced it 1 week or 2 weeks after the release of Dreamcast. But I'm going to show you, hopefully with this video, the disparity in the graphics of how much different it looked, and hopefully it'll come in my camera in a way that you can at least see it. Maybe not with the FMVs, which is the full motion video, but with the game itself while we're playing it in real time. I always choose this format because these are the two TVs that I have of the same style, same brand, same maker, same settings, same resolution, and same hertz. I've never changed my conceptual interpretation of what I do. I said from the very beginning, I do compare and contrast live in my home from my setup with the two monitors that I have that are TV but work as monitors. Now, on this side, I have the Dreamcast version, which is running on VGA, which is for video games scanning. The abbreviation, if I believe not, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong, please forgive me. And on this side, obviously, I have the PS1 version of Alone in the Dark. But so what I decided to do, to be fair or to give it some type of an edge or at least fair advantage, since the PS1 version is so disruptingly different, I put it to run on PS3. So it's using the PS3 upscaler to run it in 1080p and even 720 for most games or some. And I also put it where the sharpness on this TV is at 100%, so they can look as clear as possible in comparison to the one on this side, the Dreamcast version, which I have on 40 on sharpness. And we'll see from there. So as you can see clearly, right from the beginning, you see how clear the press start button says right there, and here's the symbol with a lot of lightning silhouette. You have press start here, but it's very jaggy and pixelated. It might not interpret as well, but believe me, I promise it was there. And then you see the symbol. So let's press start. And I have an assistant helping me with this, obviously, one of my sons. So shout outs to him. Press new game. And this is only asking me VMU if I have support. So I say yes, new game. Boom. The VMU, by the way, is the video memory unit, which is the memory storing unit of the Dreamcast, which you put in the controller that you can actually take out, as you can see right there. And it says Alone in the Dark, as you see. Put it in there and you can pull it out. So, and then my son, you can see he has a PS3 controller and it's on. For you use them think that this is a trick or that I'm lying. Anyway, like I said, this is not really for any type of bragging rights. Obviously, we know these games are old, these consoles are old. This is just for pure fun and just to point out, like I said, the retro aesthetics that this game was really good at the time and didn't get a fair shake and failed in the market because no one really tried it, because it came out, like I said, in the end cycle of the PS1, beginning cycle of the 360 or Dreamcast, Sega Dreamcast to be exact. And people didn't buy the Dreamcast except for the really hardcore Sega fans and hardcore gamers at the time, which were able to let you know the difference between the frauds and the people that were actually actual real gamers. So the CGI, you don't really see any differences. The audio is obviously, one is a little bit Dolby surround, the other one is mono surround or regular surround sound. But the clarity on these is actually a lot smoother. You can see it it's more widescreen. I suppose this one's a little more compressed, and it's within a letterbox. If you see, it's right there, right there, right there, right there. This takes the whole screen, as you see right there. It's touching the edge of the TV. So we can basically see that the frame for frame, the CGI cutscenes are the same. So in that aspect, you didn't lose out anything. You still had pretty much the experience with the story. Now, I do want to point out that, and the reason why the PS3 one is loading faster is because I had to do an extra step with the Dreamcast one when I press start to create a new game, as opposed to the PS3 is one less step. Now, I want to point out that Alone in the Dark was also reintroduced again, and they did another version again in the 360 era. And it was actually the very first game in the 360 era that started the cinematic moments that we got accustomed to seeing Naughty Dog create on PS3. Like the running in buildings while it's on fire and shimmering on the side of walls. You could drive vehicles. You could put it in first-person mode. You could craft on the fly. It did everything that The Last of Us and Uncharted did all together in one game as opposed to in two separate franchises. And I believe that a lot of those things that Naughty Dog did in those two franchises, they borrowed from the Alone in the Dark from 360 because it was all there. And it had a lot of different gameplay mechanics. Now, the bad thing about it was that in the 360 version, they still kept tank controls. Not fixed cameras, but tank controls. So it made the game kind of hard to play. But then they did a version for PS3 called Inferno, which was a director's cut with added features, added better camera, and added better controls, which played more with the freedom of the analog, which never came to 360, and it was supposed to, although the 360 is superior graphically in the PS3 version. So as they land, the cool thing is it runs right into the game. And at this point, it allows you to pick either Cornby, Edward Cornby, the main character, or the girl, as you can see. And the girl's name is Aline Cedric. And again, I don't know how well it will come in, but on this end, it's a lot more smoother and crisper. Even if you look at the tree bark in the back, and the one here is all flat, and the one here is really more detailed. Same thing with the colors, the textures in the jacket, the face, and so forth. So we'll start, pick the characters, and we'll start the game. Like I said, this game is very Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, and Dino Crisis. Even Onimusha to a certain extent. So because it was designed that way, the first thing you're going to notice is that the game, you cannot control it with any analog feature. You can only control the game with the D-pad. So it makes it very constrictive. And as you can see, what I'll do is I'll move the cameras forward a little bit closer. Just so you guys can get a better idea and a better vision of what we're seeing here on my end. Which is, I gotta tell you, completely night and day. If you notice right away how muddy and how flat all the textures looked on the PS1 version. And again, I'll repeat, I'm running this on the PS3, which is using the upscaler of the PS3, just to give it a better picture quality. And notice how flat everything looks in here, in this area here. On the face, you can barely tell what his face is. The light here, which is baked in lighting effects. The rocks, everything looks very, very, very flat. And matter of fact, let me pull it in just a little closer so you guys can see better. There is how flat it looks there. Assistant, move around, walk, do your thing. Everything's really flat. And I mean, don't get me wrong. For a PS1 standard, it's to be expected. But the point I'm trying to point out is that when this game came out, people chose to play it on a console that was $149 still, because it was still the leading platform, because it was the only one in the market. Keep going. And the Dreamcast was only $199, being a real 128-bit system as opposed to a 32-bit system. And it was affordable, which made no sense for those who were like, oh no, but you know, it's that the PlayStation is got more games. So well, I would think so. The console just came out. So as you can see, keep moving forward. come through it. As you can, I'm just letting you guys see and play, so you get grasp and get a better idea of what it looked like. This goes into a cutscene. Cornby. Please forgive the silhouette in the corner. You can see here the light coming in from outside. I'm trying to avoid that. There's a light from outside. I can't avoid it. I'm so sorry.
At the moment, I've got no idea.
It's really bothering me.
Look, don't panic. I'll think of something.
You see how jaggy and all the imperfections, which is cool. It's fine. Again, like I said, it's PlayStation 1. This is like an in-game FMV using the in-game graphic engine. Meaning they used the in-game graphic engine but turned it into a full motion video instead of letting it run in real time with the engine running in real time. It has a lot of baked-in lighting and shadows and mist. All that is baked in. It's like drawn in. It looks like somebody drew it in the background. So it looks really bad, even though it doesn't look terrible on screen. That's what they call the pre-rendered backgrounds. They were baked in to make them look more photorealistic.
Aline, I'll come for you, and that's a promise.
And the whole gimmick of this game was also the flashlight, kind of before Alan Wake. You could turn it on and off, the flashlight, I believe, with the X button or the one on the B button. What would be the B button on the Xbox? Oh no, that's for the map on the PlayStation. That's weird. On the Dreamcast, it's the actual B button. You can move around, look around, continue going, and just to give you a better idea of what the area looks like. Again, like I said, it looks really jagged, really flat, but pretty much it's the same frame for frame game as on the Dreamcast. But you know, the quality in the audio and even the gameplay felt smoother, and the loading and the actual visuals were leaps and bounds greater than on Dreamcast than it was on PS1. And people still are choosing again to not buy Dreamcast, waiting for the quote-unquote PS2. Now, remembering that the PS1 was still $149 or $129, and Dreamcast was only $199. Even if it was $199 versus $100, it was still worth the upgrade because you were getting brand new games, arcade games, exclusive games that only Sega made, and from third party that the PlayStation did not have, and it was a new console, so it didn't make much sense. I hope you guys can hear the volume a little bit. I love the lightning effect, and this really sounds amazing when you listen to it through a surround sound. It was one of those games that gave you that ambience in audio, which was really nice.
I'll go and find help.
It's kind of cool because they pretty much laid the path with ambient sounds with games like Outlast that we have now, Alan Wake obviously with the flashlight gimmick, and of course, like I said, with games that you know, with the new iteration and version they did for the 360, like Uncharted and The Last of Us, because you can craft on the fly weapons to heal yourself and weapons to fight your enemies. I believe he has a key on him. Check him, so you can open the gate on the other side. And also driving vehicles on the fly, a la, you know, quote unquote Uncharted, which you don't even do in Last of Us. You can turn it into first person, third person view. So many things you can do on the Alone in the Dark that was available for 360, which was the same people who did this one when they went to the 360 and migrated over. He gave you a key already? Okay, so you get out. Wow. So Now what I'll do is I'm gonna transition over once he gets to the gate and open it, and we'll look at the Dreamcast version. And I'll have my assistant, which is my son, shout out to him. Ooh, he killed himself. Wow. To actually play it on the Dreamcast version. This door is locked. Like in traditional Resident Evil fashion. Gotta go into your menu, pick the key, use it. There we go. You unlock the door. Very Resident Evil, like I said. They tried to do their own version. Because if a lot of people don't know this, that Alone in the Dark was the first franchise to try to start the third person survival horror genre. The only difference is, come closer, get to the book, is that it started in a 2D form with 3D graphics. Or polygons or sprites or whatever they were called at the time. Oh boy, dogs like Resident Evil. And it's a shame because even though it borrows a lot from Resident Evil, it still did a lot of cool things that were presented a lot more quality, I guess, and better presented than the Resident Evil at that time. And people didn't believe me when I told them because they're like, oh no, that's impossible. I was like, have you played the game? No, not really. So, then don't tell me it's impossible. It was just like when the 2K games came out that were leaps and bounds better than what Madden was offering. There's a book right there you missed. And people didn't believe me, just like NBA Action with Kobe Bryant on the Sega Saturn, which was from Visual Concepts when they first started before they got bought by Sega. And you know, and those are the things that people wouldn't pay attention because they were just cheap and with the ideas of this is the best version because it's on the PlayStation and it's the best console in the world. Because everybody's buying it, you know? So, come to a pause right there on the PlayStation 3 version. Hit that. And now we're going to move over to the Sega Dreamcast version, and you can clearly see right off the back, you can clearly see, you can clearly see the clarity already on the menu itself, you know, which you can't make that up. You can see it right on camera. Let's do this. I want to put it as close as I can. There we go. Alright. Now, go ahead and play. And automatically, you see already, right off the hip, how much more detailed and clear is the picture quality on here. As you can see here. That's a new effect that they had that you didn't even have on the PS1 version, which was the silhouette of those ghosts that came out when you saw the lightning. Look at the grass. You can see in the grass. You can actually see the grass detail. It looks like grass. You see here and there, and the sky looks like actual sky as opposed to a painted picture, even though it is painted the same way in the same technique, but it looks like real clouds. The lighting, the flashlight is a lot more pronounced and realistic. The detail on the character model. You like that transition right there as it cuts to a widescreen shot. Looks really smooth and cinematic, more like a movie.
Ali, are you okay?
Like when you're watching something in the movie theater that turns and transitions from regular camera to like an IMAX.
I've got no idea.
Listen, I want out of here right now.
Look, don't panic. I'll think of something. Where
You
exactly
see
are you?
there,
On the roof
all the details a lot better, and over here as well. And again, like I said, it makes sense because the system was more powerful.
Can't you
But
see me?
again, what I'm trying to point out while doing this comparison,
Tell me for Christ's
for
sake,
pure
turn on the
fun,
flashlight.
obviously, is that most people were like, "Oh, I don't need a Dreamcast. It's not that big of a deal. I can wait."
Okay, I've seen you
And
too.
and the disparity was
Here's what we'll do. Try to get
tremendous,
inside the manor,
as you can
then
see here.
find a place to hide. I'll come looking for you.
They have better shots too. I don't know if they added them in the CG, but
I
it
don't know.
seems to be
As little time as I
that they
can.
were added on this version.
Aline, I'll come for you, and that's a promise.
Hurry.
It looks really beautiful, really nice. I love the baked in lighting effects. Look real well. Even when it transitions the camera, because it is fixed cameras, it looks so much more smoother and clean. Runs so much better. Look at these leaves here. Look so real. The pre-render in the game is absolutely phenomenal, and you could tell the hardware just benefited it tremendously with the game. The game benefited tremendously from the hardware. Rather, you can notice the blood on the stairs, and that was the screaming of like a person. You can notice the blood more pronounced on the floor. And again, when I showed you the PS1 version running on PS3, I had to put the sharpness on that TV all the way to 100, just so it could look clearer, because it looked too blurred out, like Vaseline smeared all over the screen. The best way I can tell you, it looked terrible. Like the pixels were all smushed. On this one right here, the sharpness is on actually 40.
Beasts. Flee. Get out of here.
Just to show you guys,
The boat.
so you can see.
Last shipment.
See, scroll down. Sharpness right there, highlighted. It's in 40.
Look, just try to stay calm. I've got a gun. I'm leading you some bullets. I'll go and find help.
The distribution of the black levels is a lot better in this, because you can tell the differences between the artifacts in the back, where it needs to be black and where it doesn't need to be black. It's another nice thing that it has.
I'll be back.
The big shadows on the ground, here on the floor, look nice and smooth. They don't really have a lot of jaggies to them compared to the one we saw on the PS1. And again, like I'm trying to tell you guys earlier, that this game was basically what I consider a hidden gem on the Dreamcast for sure, and in gaming. Yeah, he killed himself. You saw the flashbangs coming out of the hole a lot better. It's a hidden gem as a whole in the gaming in general, because a lot of people didn't play it. They overlooked it. It was an overseen game because of the timeline that it came out. It came out late in the PS1 cycle, I'll say it again, and early in the Dreamcast cycle. But then, like I said before, a lot of people were not giving Dreamcast the proper love because of the fact that it wasn't PlayStation, but they wanted to call themselves real gamers. Which is how I started to question all the fallacy that came from the Sony camp and their fanboys and their fan base. Because it's okay to be a fanboy of a product, but don't be a hypocrite about it. At least be honest with yourself. And a lot of people didn't buy Dreamcast because they wanted Sega to die. They didn't want nobody to take their favorite Sony to go away. So they did what they did and behaved it, like casual gamers, not real gamers. That's why when Shenmue was announced as a PS3 only game, Shenmue 3, I said that's a bunch of fallacy and stupidity on Joe Suzuki's part, because only people that experienced Shenmue were the only people that embraced the Dreamcast. And yes, throughout the years it's become the most loved underground console, but for me, that's a little too late. If you were a real gamer, you would have known this and behave it like so right from the very jump in the beginning, like you did when you believed in your PlayStation too. So you see how the green is so much more detailed. You can tell what's bushes. You can tell what's grass and foliage. Music is really dark and kind of gritty, eerie. Love the lighting of the lightning with the rain effect. You can hear the rain falling. Oh boy. See what happens here. Okay, the government pinchers are loose. So you gotta grab those and then get ready to shoot them. Because they will come back. Like I said, the loading from area to area is a lot smoother, and obviously again it's the hardware being a lot more capable. So for those of you that view this, don't come in my section with saying that I'm trying to say Dreamcast, that the PlayStation looks like shit. Like if I don't understand that the Dreamcast is more powerful, because that's not the point of the video. The point of the video is, one, to showcase a hidden gem that a lot of people may not play, and secondly, to showcase the disparity and discrepancies between the PS1 and the Dreamcast games and hardware. In this case, this game being the only few games that was only available on a PS1 and a Sega Dreamcast, so that people can see and understand where I come from when I say the hypocrisy of the gamers that, I don't want a Dreamcast even though it was a cheap hardware and it was running games at a better quality and a higher graphical fidelity, obviously. So I'm going to pull back here on my son keeps playing, and I'm going to place this here, and I'm just going to go back so that we can get a better shot again. As you see there. And I'll play the PlayStation version while he's playing the Dreamcast version, just so you can see how it transitions in real time, side by side, since you saw me moving from one place to another, with the camera shifting and things like that. Matter of fact, it goes into like a black screen, if you notice. The area with the dogs. Up here. I don't know if that's even a thing, but I believe even when you pick up items, it seems to load up much slower on the PlayStation version. I guess because it has to process the image of what you picked up. What I'll do is I'll put this a little closer. You guys can see it in better quality. Somebody looking out the window. Okay, like I said, I'm trying to catch up to where the sun was. Just keep moving around. Just so you guys can kind of see how it moves from place to place. From place to place. In real time. The control's really, really harsh. Look, yes. One dead. Being attacked. You can see here. Oh, some guy, I believe. Here's one of the other camera angles. Shake the dogs off. Kill them off. You know he's done because the blood came out. So you go here to the statue. Read. And I don't understand how people were able to play really on PS1 and compared to like something like Dreamcast, because the visuals are so different and rough looking that it's like it hurts your eyes almost when you do it for a long period of time. I don't know how we were able to do that. Matter of fact, a lot of the games on PlayStation 1 just don't hold up very well in comparison to something like the Sega Saturn, to be honest with you. Even though I know it may sound hard to believe that they were both 32-bit systems, but the Saturn would just have more raw power and more chipsets that gave it a lot more flexibility and dynamic processing to allow you to do certain things that you couldn't do on a PlayStation. I think other than the full motion videos that look a lot cleaner and crisper on the PlayStation 1 console, as far as the pixels and stuff, I thought that a lot of games, especially the Sega name brand games, like their exclusives, they looked really, really well. Only like the third party stuff, like the multiplats, were the ones that were kind of rough and looked better and smoother on PS1. And I think that was just due to the fact that the hardware was so complex to develop games for, the way they designed the Sega themselves, which they did to avoid piracy. So yeah, that's pretty much the best I can do right now, showing you guys. I hope you were able to see it somewhat, because it is a dark game. It is a pre-rendered game. So the fact that they were both in pre-rendered format, it's kind of really hard to interpret. But you can still see all those pixel dots there. You can see it right through the camera. Over here, you don't see none of that. Again, because of the hardware limitation. So for me, I felt like when a person said it wasn't worth getting a Dreamcast over a PS1 that was out already so many years, when the price was so reasonable, that was a big point of proof that that person was being a hypocrite and really wasn't a hardcore gamer. So when they say, "Oh yeah, I'm a real gamer,"
yards from the
And I understand that PS1 had a lot of exclusives that were only for that console because of the fact that Sony bought a lot of marketing deals with third-party developers for games.
Okay, I see you too.
They were the big dogs with money at the time.
Try and get inside the banner, then find a place to hide.
Oh boy.
I'll come looking for you.
How long will that take?
I don't know.
Gotta shoot
Little
this
time
thing
is-
here.
Aiden, I'll come for you, and that's a promise.
Hurry.
Get off! You're gonna kill me! No! Got him. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I'll leave it there. The Alone in the Dark game for PlayStation 1 and Sega Dreamcast. It was out on Dreamcast first, and this was my opinion, a hidden gem that a lot of people didn't get to play or didn't know existed, perhaps, that was overlooked and should be brought back out, remastered, to be honest with you. I think it would be fantastic if it gets the Resident Evil 2's treatment. But unfortunately, Info Games, I don't think exist anymore. And just for reference, this was the cover. This is what it looked like. It was like that on both versions, just to show you guys, just in case, so you can see it. The same exact cover. It just one said PlayStation, and the other one said, Dreamcast. Same exact cover. So guys, thank you for joining me for this retro compare and contrast and showcasing what I believe to be a hidden gem in the gaming industry that many probably perhaps never tried and played. It's very inexpensive. You can find it for both platforms or both consoles fairly cheap. So if you're curious after what I showed you and you're thinking of checking it out, I recommend it. Try it out. I think you'll like it, especially if you love survival horrors like Resident Evil, and obviously, games like, Silent Hill and Dino Crisis and things of that nature. So guys, thank you for joining me. Like, comment, and share with anyone you think that might like it. Remember, I know you don't have to, so if you do, I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me, and I consider you part of my family for all the love and support. And remember, I do pretty much all this out of my own pocket. I don't get any help. I'm not sponsored, and I am not funded by anybody or have a Patreon or anything like that. But I do have a PayPal account, so I linked it in the bottom in my description box. So if any of you guys want to help me out and want to give me a small donation from the kindness of your heart because you like what I do and you want me to continue to do more things like this to help me out with future endeavors and videos and products that I can bring to you, it would mean a whole lot to me. So it's something you don't have to, like I said, but if you do, thank you ahead of time. Xbox for life, like a sickness that can't be cured. That's my saying, that's my slogan. Don't get triggered, people. It's just gaming. It's all in good fun. See you guys in the next one. Hope you enjoyed it. Love you very much. Bye-bye.